What's going on, everyone? We're back again with another video. This time we're going to talk about PPS, which is Personal Placement Service. It's like a guaranteed interview at mid-year, and it's a big, is it a controversy? Or what is it? A lot of people ask about it though.
Yeah,
debate?
Yeah, a lot of debate about it.
I was like, should you go or should you not go? Alright, so let's talk about PPS. No real structure here, just kind of, what do you think? Well, I guess let's start with the cost. I think one of the controversies is because you have to pay for it.
Right.
How much did you pay? Do you remember how much it cost?
Way too much.
Way too much.
Yeah.
Or a
Yeah.
resident too, right?
As a student, and even as a resident, was a lot. I have a lot of opinions on PPS.
Okay.
I felt like as a fourth year looking for PGY1, honestly, I felt like it was a waste of my time. And the reason why I felt like when I got there, it felt like most of the programs were interviewing for PGY2s. And I felt like I wasn't even able to figure a lot of that information out until I paid my money. So you paid your money, then you get access to the portal, and you get to see all the programs, and I'm like, huh. Where all the PGY1? Oh, here's one here. But the majority of them were for specialty residency, so I feel like I didn't really get the most bang out of my buck, and I could have spent that time at PPS elsewhere, probably in the showcase talking to people.
Okay. So let's break it down. Let's start with PGY1s then, in terms of like, should you or should you not do PPS if you're looking for a PGY1? Because it sounds like there's a lot of PGY2s,
Right.
but there wasn't as much PGY1s when you looked.
Right.
Did you do PPS as a student?
Yeah.
PGY1? Oh, you did?
Yeah, and that's why I said
That's
doing PPS as a fourth year is fake news.
Fake.
Fake
news, you heard it.
Fake news.
Okay.
I feel,
Oh, go ahead.
oh, no.
Yeah. So, but I'll let Kareem go first. What do you really?
As a
fourth year.
As a fourth year, I didn't do it.
Would you say it's a good idea or a bad idea?
I got a residence. It's probably the worst way of advertising. I didn't do PPS, but I got a residency. No, I didn't do it for that reason. When I'd asked some friends that I knew who were currently PGY1s at that time, they told me their experience. It just sounded like it was money that I was going to have to pay. Wouldn't have a lot of opportunity really to meet any of the organizations I was interested and really had on my own personal ranking my list at that point. So I ended up taking that time and using it to network during the showcases and just focus at that time for making and putting my foot in and making that face-to-face introduction with the sites that I liked.
Okay, so I would say I agree that it's a waste of time because of the same reasons you do. There wasn't a lot of it, and I don't think PPS is as catered to PGY1s as it is to like PGY2s and even jobs. Like if you're looking for a job, like there's more jobs there than for PGY1s. And I think also I agree because I read the showcase. The residency showcase is like where all the PGY1s are. That's where you should be, right? Mm-hmm. Now I disagree because for individuals that are pursuing out-of-state residencies, I think that's a good tool to use, like to do PPS. And the reason why is like residency showcase is crazy. It's hectic, right? And you might not even talk to the residency you want to, especially if you're trying to be competitive and there's like tons of people there. So you may not even get any FaceTime with them. Now, if that PGY1 was doing like PPS and that was one you wanted to, you're now guaranteed a 30-minute interview. So I've always given the recommendation that if you're doing PGY1, only do it if it's out of state, because also if you're doing it in state, it's like a waste of time because you have like your local organizations,
right?
You know,
and that's what I was noting. Safety, I was gonna hit you with the red card.
Yeah,
soccer player.
If you're in state, No, I do not recommend it. So that's kind of my reasons.
Like in Texas and in Houston where I was at, we had TSHP, and they would have their own residency showcase before midyear, and that would be your opportunity to meet all the local residents and have that one-on-one, to the point that there was no need when you went to midyear to be talking to any local hospital, because you should have already met them at that meeting. So if you go with that approach, then you do have ample time to meet the other hospitals that are out of state during the showcase, because you already crossed off your list a lot of the hospitals that you already seen maybe a month before. So if you're tight on cash and you don't really have that luxury to sign up for PPS and you're out of state, then I would do it the way I recommended. Now, if you have that luxury, then sure, it is good to have an additional period of time to get that one-on-one with that side.
Yes.
But
We had that too. No, I know, I completely agree. In Florida, we had FSHP, so it's like a local one, and they always had the that showcase like right before midyear as well. So it was like you meet everyone there already. So
honestly, I always felt, and this is my own personal opinion, but I always felt like it was more of an opportunity for people to get weeded out. Because if you make a bad impression during the showcase, there's so many people, you can get forgotten. But if you blow that PPS, that's 30 minutes dedicated to remembering who you were.
Yep.
So I see that with the opportunity that if you are really on your A game and you're prepared and you know what you want, then you can really shine, and hospital may be really interested in interviewing you on site. But if you're not all the way prepared and you're just doing it for the sake of doing it and you blow it, that might just be your last chance.
That's a really good point. I think it's all going back. You really have to do your homework about it. You don't want to just blindly go into it and set up PPS interview at times with different institutions without knowing anything about the program, having some background, and it really is going on and thinking on it on the other end of sitting in on some of those interviews after the fact, of seeing those who really shined and seeing those who really did not, really affects how then you're going to get those interviews, because they are so limited when you're really looking at different programs for who you're going to have come on site. So definitely is a great opportunity if you do your homework, you know the questions, you know the organizations that you're really interested in, that you're going to be able to do it, but don't go in blindly.
So this is my double-edged sword.
Dun, dun.
Pro and con. Now, just like what you guys said, both of you guys said, like, if you do bad, they would weed you out, because that's what they use to like bring people onto interviews, like Kareem was saying. And if you do bad, you just tank. It's not good. But the pro to doing it, a flip side of that is you are also evaluating them.
Sure.
The thing is, like, so if like this came in handy when I was interviewing for like second year residencies for informatics. There was relatively a lot of them out there. There's no way I can interview for like the 16 programs that were available at the time. So I used PPS to like talk to everyone, and thankfully I did, because a lot of the programs that I was going to apply to and I wanted to attend, I weeded out. I nixed like 5 programs in PPS because one, just didn't click.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing bad with the program, it just didn't click. Working with them didn't mesh well, or like it was like, ugh, maybe it was good. So it's a double-edged sword, right? So what are some other things you guys have? Let's ask Kareem. What are the things about PPS?
I think, okay, so like I said, you really have to have your battle plan. You want to make sure you know what points, making sure you practice that elevator conversation, the 5-minute interview, so you really can tell your story succinctly, and really get those points across. I agree, it's something to remember. You're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you as a candidate, because one of my most interesting interviewing experiences was at PPS, where I had my time slotted. I was there, arrived a little bit early, make sure you know where you're going, because it's just rows and rows of tables and little tents and booths. So making sure that you knew where you were going. I went there, I was all ready, waited, no one was around, waited, got to the time where my interview was supposed to start, looking around, getting really nervous, no one's around, start going on my phone, making sure it's the right time zone, am I in the right place, what did I mess up? All of a sudden I got an email 5 minutes after the start saying, I can't meet at this time, are you available at another time? Yeah, that was good to know.
That's a professional.
Yeah,
Right.
that was it. It was a way to definitely narrow down the potential checklist for what I was interviewing for, because then I actually did reschedule it, was able to find a time to do it. No apology, nothing, and so that having the opportunity of doing it definitely saved a lot of money and planning and time of going somewhere then and doing a face-to-face on-site interview for sure.
Yeah. Gives you like good idea. You gauge them. You might get to know them a little better. That kind of sucks though. I'm surprised that happened.
I've never heard of it happening to anybody else. It was a very surprising.
Be surprised, dude. Really be surprised. I'll give a little, I guess, some advice too. I think one of the biggest areas a lot of people fall into when they're interviewing during PPS, they'll recognize a friend, or they'll see someone that's a resident, and someone just looks just like them. And so they come in, or you come in really prepared, you have your professional swagger about you, and you're like, oh, it's Brian. Hey Brian, what's going on? You just start talking very informal, and you forget it's an interview, and they're judging you just like a professional interview. And so when you're looking at professionalism, like, well, I know him, but just wasn't all there. So understand that when you're in that setting, regardless of who you know, you have to be on your A game, because they're in a different point in their life. Maybe they're a resident and they've changed a lot since they left pharmacy school. So just be very cognizant of that, because people do change, and you have to make sure that you're representing yourself in the best light, regardless of who you're in front.
Very interesting.
It's always better to be a little bit more professional, a little bit more reserved. Not uptight, but be a little cautious, because if it is somebody you do know, yeah.
That's very interesting. I never heard of that, but that is. I think I'm usually more lax. But that's interesting. I'm sure you're speaking from some experience.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting to know. So if you were to wrap up like right now what we said about PGY1, it sounds like we all can agree that PGY1 for the most part is not worth it, unless like would you guys agree that it's more worth it for out of state, or do you think that's still like a hard sell? Like just to give like the group out there like some recommendations, I think we all agree that PGY1s is not worth it in state.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
What about out of state? Do you guys kind of agree or still disagree?
I like it. I didn't go into it thinking it because I didn't do PPS, but yeah, if you know that there's some places you're looking that are out of state and you know they're going to be at PPS, I think that's smart.
I think it's a great idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I actually did not do PPS my first year.
So he was smart.
So, I was like, they all told me not to do it, so it's great I didn't do it. Okay, let's move to PGY2 then. What do you think about, let's start green, PGY2. What do you think, anything about PGY2? Should you do it? Should you not do it?
Yes, you should do it. Again, personally, I wasn't going to because I already knew a lot of the places. My top 3. I already had connections with them, and it wasn't until I was talking to one of the directors at once. Wait, you're not doing PPS? I was looking for your name to try to do it. I said, yeah, of course I'm going to do it now. Just give me a second. So I did it. Obviously, you really should. And I think it really is an opportunity for, especially if it's a site you've never spoke with, or you haven't, you don't have any connections to them, to be able to to present yourself. It's almost it's required. I think in my book, going back on it, in order to get that face-to-face interview, you have to do PPS as a PGY2. I don't think, in my experience, looking back on it now, for which candidates did we end up interviewing and inviting to interviewing, we never looked at anybody who didn't do PPS. They would have to have really specific circumstances for why they didn't do it as a PGY2.
We should probably also have explained like the timeline. So it's like before mid-year, you look at programs you're interested in. At mid-year, that's when PPS occurs, and after PPS, like in January, February, March, is when you do interviews. So like what Karina's saying is, sometimes you need that PPS interview, or sometimes that makes a big difference on whether or not you get this actual interview later on.
Because a site will have, they'll block off as much time all throughout the entire mid-year program to do different PPS interviews, and it's typically 30-minute chunks, and you'll go and you'll talk to the program. If you are doing a PGY1 versus a specialty, if it's a specialty, you typically will have the interview with the director if they're at mid-year. Versus when it's on site, they typically will limit the number of candidates that get invited. My experience was always, for PGY2s, it was 3 or 4 people would end up with the offer for on-site interviews. I don't know if you guys had a different to actually come on-site for the PGY2 or the interview itself.
Oh, like during the, I guess, interviewing portion.
Yeah, after mid-year.
Depending on how big the program was. But going to your point, kind of taking the lead from what you were saying, it's a must-do. One of the most important things you figure out during a PGY1 is what you like and what you don't like. You finally figure out what questions to ask. And not the, hey, what do you think, Brian, I should ask on this interview? Or, hey, that's a good question, I should ask them the same. No, you know what what you want, or you should know what you want. And so having that time and being able to do PPS, you're basically figuring out how many places am I willing to travel to. Because the interview might go horrible in your eyes, and they might love you and invite you for an on-site. And now we talked about, in one of the our other sessions, we talked about costs associated with being a resident. So you got to figure out, is this the best thing? Do I really want to go there? You know, again, you're interviewing them at the same time, so it's super important.
I have a lot of things to say about PPS and PGY2s, but I think based on what you guys said already, we all agree that it's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
I would say is like you need to do PPS if you're looking for a PGY2. Maybe unless you're doing like early commit or something like that, you probably don't. Yeah, you don't need to do PPS because you're already early committed.
Depending on how your hospital early commits.
Oh, that's true. I'm not
That's
up to
getting
date.
into politics. So.
Yeah, but no, you're correct. That's something that you should evaluate. I think for the most part, let's say maybe like 80-20. If you early commit, you shouldn't need to. But that's what they change. Yeah, politics.
Let's leave it at that.
Let's leave it at that. Not going to go into the politics. But I think we can all agree, PGY2, PPS. So the other thing I'll say about like PGY2 is I actually was not completely sure. I interviewed with so many programs at PPS. Not all of them were informatics. I interviewed for the med safety PGY2 at Hopkins. And
I didn't know that about you.
it was interesting because, like, you know, med safety is so, you know, related to what we do.
So informatics.
Yeah, right?
It really is, though.
But they actually reached out to me. The Hopkins person, the director, reached out and was like, hey, you know, med safety is actually very similar. Why don't you come check out our program? Do you have some time? I was like, hey, why not?
Mm-hmm.
And actually, one of the graduates of my residency program did do that PGY2 med safety, and she became like a safety officer at some major hospital in somewhere. I can't remember where now.
Pharmacy God.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool. So I did that, and I found out it wasn't for me, but it was still a really cool program. I really wanted to do informatics. but I was also interested in infectious disease, so I actually was looking at infectious disease fellowships at that time too. I did not apply. I know, very different. But when I was doing my residency, my PGY1, I could not decide between infectious disease pathway or informatics pathway. So I was still looking at some, I know, very different. But I didn't apply to any PGY2s for ID. I just looked at them. I didn't apply.
I'm waiting for the video on that.
But it's interesting. One of the things like why you want to do it is because some of the programs I wanted to talk to, like I walked through the residency showcase too. When I go and talk to the PGY2 programs there, they're like, oh, you gotta go PPS. They weren't there because all the PGY2 directors were at PPS. They weren't at Midyear. Well, maybe some were, but everyone I talked to was like, you gotta go PPS. I was like, oh, okay. So that was the other thing. It's almost like you need to go there.
Which reminds me, bring extra CVs, extra business cards, because if you're going to be taking some of these ad hoc PPS interviews and you're at that stage, you want to be prepared, not, oh, I'm here. Do you have a spot? Okay.
That's true, because typically you'll schedule your PPS interview blocks a good 2-3 weeks before you actually go to mid-year, so you'll know what your schedule's going to look like. But there is a lot of ad hoc at the time of interview, all of a sudden scheduling to do a PPS interview too.
So one thing is like the programs weren't at the residency showcase. The other thing is like I got invited to the receptions at PPS. So and I always forget the Ohio State one. I got invited to Ohio State. They're like after the interview they passed me this little chocolate. Did you guys get that too? Did you interview
I didn't
for
get
it?
the chocolate, so
But you got the reception, right?
yeah.
Yeah, see, they after the PPS interview, there's like this little chocolate, the Buckeye.
Okay.
So they're like, hey, here's a chocolate with a little invitation. I was like, oh, this is a big piece of chocolate. But it was pretty cool. Is that we'd like to talk to you afterwards at the reception and stuff. So I thought that was really cool. Same with like Cleveland Clinic. I got the invite at PPS. So I think that opens up a lot of doors there too. It's like you may need to interview at PPS to get a reception invite.
Right. And it's super important. Even those receptions are an interview in themselves. But that's another conversation to be had.
That's also something you should always attend to if you're invited.
Right.
Is there anything else we need to say about PGY2s and PPS? Or should we move to like PPS for jobs?
Yeah, I think that's the next level.
Yeah. Because we all kind of agree.
Right.
We all agree?
Yeah, we agree.
PGY2s, good idea. Okay,
Good.
what about jobs? Who wants to start?
I can start it.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
I think it's a great way, especially as, and even this would apply for some of the residency ones as well, is it gets you out there, it gets you practicing that interview, getting used to the types of questions you're going to get, and then it's FaceTime. And at that point in your career, FaceTime is very important. So you want to make sure that when you're talking, it's a little bit different with jobs, but when you're talking to the director or whoever is there representing the organization at mid-year for that interview, that you get a good feel of how do you like the place? Does the atmosphere that the area give off, does it seem like it's going to work for you? And you're going to be going and traveling and taking time off, limited days potentially as a resident, to go and interview and do a face-to-face. So I think it's a good opportunity, and I would do it for interviews for jobs.
Yeah, I would piggyback off that and say completely agree. It really helps, gauge whether or not you want to go out there and fly out there and interview with the program. It gives you like a little bit more face time. So I certainly agree with that. No disagreeing.
No red cards?
I completely agree. No, I think that's a very, very good idea. And that's what I did too. I literally interviewed for any program, like even if I didn't even think I wanted it, just to get get warmed up, interview, feel comfortable, and 2, just kind of see what's out there. I interviewed for everything. I had a faculty job, this little dinky hospital somewhere that, like, the most remote jobs ever, just to meet people and stuff. But I'll leave it at that and then pass it over to Sam.
Well, bullets off of that. Off that piggyback. It's the best business decision that you can make finishing up your PGY2 training. Number 1, you have all these places that you're interested in a centralized area. You know, you're going to meet up with them, and a lot of people actually get job offers on the spot. So if you're really serious about a place and you know, I only want to be in Maryland, and the Maryland hospital offers you the job and that's what you want to do, you can take it. And so I think that's a great opportunity that you may or may not get outside of that. And I think another great portion about it, it reduces some of the other work you would have to do if you didn't go to PPS. I remember going to PPS and interviewing, and after that, like, okay, we're interested in you coming on site. Now, for some of my friends that also applied but outside of PPS, they had to go through a lot of more hoops and a lot more documentation and paperwork because they didn't have that first encounter at PPS. So it just sets, it kind of streamlines a lot of the process for yourself and for the hospital or clinic or independent that you're trying to be associated with.
Now, the other thing is, I would say PPS for jobs is networking. So I actually spent like all my time in PPS. I talked to every single booth I was there, every single one. I walked up to every program. I was like, "Hi, my name is Brian. I am PGY2. I'm looking for jobs. Here's my resume. You know, just wanted to talk to see if you guys have offers." So, you know, just being really personable, networking and meeting people from, like you said, all these programs are here. You know, you get this rare opportunity to meet everyone. So I met a lot of people. One real interesting story, I'm not going to say any names, but I could, but, you know, I think it's really cool where, like, I walked up to a program and they were very well known for the informatics program, and I met them. I met the director of the program, not residency director, but he was the director of pharmacy over there, and I met him. And then later on down the road, so this is me as a PGY2 at Utah, right? So later on, all of our residents gathered. There was like 20 something of us, and then our pharmacy director was like, "Hey, I want you guys all to meet this awesome director out here." And so all of us gathered and huddled around, and he's like, "Hey, this is so and so," and then the guy, the director from the other program was like, "Hey everyone," and then he sees me, he's like, "Hey Brian." You know, and everyone's like, "How does he?" It was cool. So like, I think networking is pretty huge, and that happened a lot during PPS, where people were like, "Oh, hey Brian, you know, nice to meet you." So it was like a great way to meet really cool people. Right.
And I think probably to explain it for those who haven't done PPS yet, it's similar to Midyear at the Showcase, where you have different tables and you'll have banners or some way to identify what organization they are. The difference with showcases is those go up and down, and it's completely different morning, afternoon, one day from the next. But with the PPS area, the way it's structured out is you're at one table.
Alright, so I think we're going to wrap up this video. Hope you guys liked it. If you guys want to ask Sam or Corrine some more questions, we'll have the contact information below. Otherwise, guys, until next time. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in and watching the video. If you like the content, definitely hit the ImproRx button over to your left to subscribe, and definitely check out more videos over here to your right. Now, as always, if you have questions, comments, and even better, suggestions for future videos, definitely let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, until next time, guys.